starting off with personal questions. So, how politically active were you at university?
Very.
Could you tell us a bit more?
I joined the debating society, and because at my school, you must be joking, we didn't do things like debating. And I was interested in politics, and I'd actually joined the Liberals when I arrived at university. And in those days, which is obviously a long time ago, they were sort of left anarchists, not for me. And I was sort of in the closet as a Tory, and then I sort of came out the closet and actually properly joined when I was about 19 or 20. And I stood for election, spectacularly unsuccessfully. But I would win when it came to the elections for the NUS, for the National Union Students' Conference. So I could get elected to that, but I stood for president, and I didn't really want to be president. I knew I wouldn't win, and I didn't win, even though we had Conservative presidents. So Birmingham was one of those universities at that time, which was in the mid to late 70s, that had Conservatives. But I mean, we were all sort of one nation, sensible, pink Tories. So yeah, I was overly involved in politics. I was a terrible hack.
And how do you think this shaped your political career further?
It made me absolutely determined that if I ever got involved in politics, I would not be a hack, and that I wouldn't live in a bubble, just talking politics to people talking politics. But you have to connect with real people, or they won't vote for you. So, and I learned a lot from that experience. And losing an election which you're expected to win is a lesson for life. It really is.
So obviously the people voted for Brexit through a referendum, which was a democratic process, but which we arguably now regret, so there seems to be that contradiction. So do you think perhaps we should rethink some of our democratic principles?
No, well, I mean, I think we've all learned an awful lot about the dangers of a referendum on such a hugely complex subject, which Brexit is. I mean, you know, we've been a member of the European Union for decades, so it is absolutely woven through the fabric of almost everything that our country does. And to try and get ourselves out of that is, I think, actually, I don't think it can be delivered. I think that's the reality of it. So it was undefined on the ballot paper because people basically didn't know what it would mean. They never knew it would be this complicated. They didn't know there would be all this chaos. And they didn't know, and even I would accept this, the difficulties in the options that are available to us. So we can either stay in the single market and the customs union, which is the old common market, which most older Tories actually shouldn't have a problem with, or we take this so-called Canadian model. And if we take the so-called Canadian model, it means that you have to erect a border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. And if you do that, that will completely take away the Good Friday Agreement and all the peace that has been established in Northern Ireland now for decades. And it will go, and there will be civil insurrection. No debate. If that hard border goes up, there'll be civil insurrection. And I don't think we appreciated that. I didn't appreciate it. And I was in the cabinet when we took the decision to have the referendum. And nobody ever produced a paper which said, these are the risks we run if Leave wins. Because we'd made the promise in the manifesto. Huge mistake.
You said in your talk, though, that you think people are a lot better informed now, and that's why you're pushing for a second referendum?
Yeah, I think they are. I think people, I mean, obviously they look at the chaos, and increasingly they are realising that we're going to pay 50 billion to the European Union. But at the moment, we haven't even got a trade deal. And we were promised one. You know, the easiest trade deal in the history of trade deals. And we haven't got one 2.5 years on. And we ain't going to get one if we leave for at least another 2 years. I mean, the one we've just signed with Singapore took 7 years. The one with Canada, I think, took 8 years.
So you said about like Canada's model, and you mentioned Norway's model in your talk as well. Do you think that, and you're wanting a soft exit if we have to have an exit, exit, that is, you want a soft exit. So what kind of specifically would this involve for you?
I would take the single market and the customs union. I mean, I still think that should go to a people's vote, but I've been making the case for the single market and the customs union for over 2 years now.
Do you think that potentially people could see a softer exit as going against the people's first consensus?
Oh, some people will, definitely. And they'll say, oh, people didn't vote for that, as if they know what people voted for. You know, leave was on the ballot paper, not the different flavours of leave. That wasn't on the ballot paper. They voted leave. And now we see these different options. The real question is going to be whether Theresa May can get a deal. And I think she will struggle to get a deal. And we ain't leaving without a deal. Parliament will not vote for that. And in that event, what are we going to do? The only way out of it is to go back to the British people.
What do you think the ballot paper would look like? Do you think?
Well, if it's no deal, it's no deal or remain. If it's a deal, it's deal or remain. I would definitely have remain on that ballot paper.
So do you think Brexit could be reversed then? Do you think we should try to aim for that? Or?
If people want it, where there's a will, there's a way, the old saying. It's true. And it may be it's the only option if we reach the impasse in Parliament, which I think we're very near to doing.
So you mentioned the mini mogs you saw at the Tory party conference, but more importantly that there were hardly any women at the Tory party conference. You said obviously you think this is an issue that we need to address, but what do you think should be done? What do you think could be done?
Well, I think it's because of the shift or perceived shift to the right. And the right often doesn't attract young women in particular to it. It seems to become an almost exclusive young male club, and women just are not interested in that. And when we move into the centre, then you find more women get involved. I mean, Theresa May is meant to be a one-nation Conservative. That's a very good example of a centrist politician. And I am really worried about the fact that I think we have undone the huge work that David Cameron did in making the Conservative Party electable. And it's like all that centrist work that he did. And you know, he positively encouraged women. He positively encouraged people from different ethnic backgrounds to get involved in the Tory party. Did you know, I didn't use this figure when we were downstairs because it didn't come up, proportionately more black ethnic minority people in America voted for Trump than voted Conservative in last year's general election. That is shocking. Absolutely appalling statistic. And that shows my party has a very serious problem. And some of that is Brexit. Because Brexit is, for a lot of people, anti-immigration. And if you're black or brown or from an ethnic minority, you think you're anti-me. You're anti-me. Because those are my roots. And you're anti-me. And that's how my party is seen by a lot of people in those communities.
So on a slightly different subject now, what do you think the worst effect of Brexit would be for students at university?
I mean, the whole Erasmus programme is brilliant. The other thing that had always worried me, and I remember going up to Leeds University during the referendum campaign, and it was all, you know, part of the publicity thing, but looking at the work at Leeds in a particular laboratory where there were students from all over Europe, and they'd come to Leeds because it was the centre for whatever the thing was in the laboratory that they were looking at and so on and so forth. So it was like this wonderful hot house of brilliant brains and everything else and all the rest of the research that they were doing. And they loved the fact that if you were Parisian, you could hop backwards and forwards, and if you were from Spain or wherever. And it was absolutely working. And of course, the benefit for the British students was that they too could then have that complete freedom. And for your generation, see, it's all you've ever known. And I think it's appalling that you will not have that wonderful free movement. Because the whole point, one of the huge benefits of immigration and the free movement of people is also the free movement of ideas. Because you take your values, you take your ideas with you. You enrich another culture, you enrich another economy. And I am so worried that we are at a time in the world when we want to be taking down walls and barriers, we're actually erecting them. And we're becoming like little Englanders. And one of my complaints is what people will say to me, well, you know, Britain's changed, it's not like it used to be. And I want to go, yippee yoodles, because I remember what it used to be like. So constituents will say, oh yeah, it used to be great back in there. I go, really? When was that? Back in the 60s? Oh yeah, it was great in the 60s. And really? I said, did you have a bathroom? Pardon? Did you have a bathroom? Oh, no, well, no. When did we put the bathroom in? Oh, that would be in I think, okay, what, outdoor lavatory? Yeah, oh, yeah, oh, do you remember that outdoor lav we had? And you're honestly telling me that that was better than now? And did you ever go abroad on holiday? Well, we never went anywhere on that. We never had a holiday, did we? Couldn't afford it. So what about your last holiday? Fantastic time in Spain, you know. I think, for God's sakes, don't talk this nonsense about how marvellous it was. They romanticise about a time that never existed. It did not exist.